Hey everyone, it's Friday and we are back in the studio for Litvak Leadership Live. I am done with my travels for the week and we are here with my new friend, special guest, Sessen Tesfay, all the way from Munich, Germany. So hey I'm sorry, hey Sessen.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi. I'm great, thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
I'm so glad to have you on here. So I'm going to throw up Sessen's LinkedIn profile for everyone to check her out and connect with her. So Sessen, our show is all about leadership, and it seems like looking at your profile and the groups you're in on Facebook, you are a kindred spirit like me. You are definitely a leadership junkie. So tell me, how do you define leadership?
I define leadership very easily, just being human and caring about others. So the things that you wouldn't do to your friends and family, don't do this to employees. Easy as that. So it's really simple from this perspective, but executing it is a bit different.
Interesting. So basically treat your team and those you work with like family?
Yeah, and like people you like. Not like strangers, not like employees. That's my approach. No.
So, go ahead.
If you think about them as employees, you immediately get the link that they are, your money-making machine. And
right.
That's why you treat them differently. Yeah. And because of the many terrible leaders I had. So you become a better leader if you had poor ones as well. If you
there
can,
we go.
Yeah, when you learn how to overcome the struggles that you go through as an employee and turn it around for yourself.
Say that again. My internet blipped.
Yeah, so you become a better leader yourself when you are able to turn around the negative experiences you had yourself as an employee. You have two choices when you had toxic or poor leaders. You can either, whine, dwell, and feel bad about it, or you can say, I'm tired of it. Let me learn what I don't want to do and find my own leadership style and change it for others. That's what I did.
So how do you get people to get over the whining that they end up doing? Because it's been my experience that some people, and I'm going to get this phone to stop making noises, some people just like to complain, don't they?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's also a change management topic. I'm also a change practitioner. If you think you can push people or motivate people to a certain level, but at some level, people need to have a pain. Only this pain makes them move, right? So my grandfather, for example, was a smoker. For decades, we were never able to make him stop. Then he had a heart attack. The physician told him he will not survive the next one. The next day, he was able to stop from, without reducing on anything, just from one day to another. So if you have, enough pain that motivates you, you will do it. And then you will start the process of thinking, does it help if I only whine? What can I do? Whining is more passive, mechanism. How can I get into an active mechanism? And then coaching will help.
So I being in sales, I hear people talk about, find the pain points. And to me, that's just a phrase. I was talking to someone today. I just don't like that phrase, finding someone's pain points. I would rather find something that encourages people. But I hear you talking about that sometimes only pain can get people to change. Mm-hmm. Is it that the pain is motivating them? How does that work exactly?
When there is more motivation to get rid of the pain and try something else, you will try new things. You cannot inflict pain to make them change because this has different, side effects. This doesn't make sense. You can either make them depressive, burn them out or whatever. You need to wait till this person hits the level where this person says, okay, now it's getting really uncomfortable pain and I'm willing to move out. Yeah.
Okay. So give me an example of someone you've worked with like that, where it's been successful, where they came to you and they said, I want to change, and they were just pained, and you got them to be able to work through the pain to make the changes that they wanted.
Mm-hmm. So I work with organizations, not with, one-on-one. I only work with organizations, and they bring me in when they go through a bigger technological transformation. And I have, like the worst situation that you can get, basically. You get called in by a senior executive, CEO, or someone from the board who puts a lot of pressure on the CEO that, they invested millions and now there's no return on investment. So when I get in to help a CIO or senior staff, leaders, they usually don't want me around because I was sent by someone.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. This is basically not the best starting point. But then, I advocate and tell them what we can do. I build the future with them, the workplace, the transformation. And yes, you just need to, endure the, I wouldn't say hostility because that's a bit too strong probably as a word. The cautious attitude that they don't want to interact with me.
Okay.
And they do it at the beginning because they are forced. And then usually I'm able to convince them by just showing them my different leadership style. And with time, they see that they can have a lot of influence on their company and change things.
So on your LinkedIn profile, it says, I design leaders with human touch and create a positive organizational culture. Build on that a little bit, please.
Yeah, so the human touch is just something. Someone asked me how I came, how I ended up in the field that I ended up in. And I was able to recall the situation. And I was like, okay, there was a situation where I worked in a company as an external consultant. They called me in again. And the employees, when they wanted to leave, their work day was done, they just somehow went through the rear exit. And I was like, what are you doing? Because it's a way longer road to get to your car or to the bus or whatever. And they were asking me, they told me, hey, here's the rear exit. And I was like, why should I go through the rear exit? I can just go, through the main exit. But if you go through the main exit, you need to pass the office of the manager. And if you pass the office of the manager, this manager would ask them if they are just working part-time or why they are leaving so early after 10 hours a day or 8 hours a day. And I was like, damn, this is crazy. People take the rare exit to avoid being questioned. And to me, it felt like so crazy, and I never thought about it. Right? Or we had one Friday, every third Friday, I have my me time, a bit wellness, going to cosmetics, going to do my nails and so on. But I've worked the other days, the hours off. And and I was not afraid to say, okay, I'm leaving now. It's 1 o'clock. I'm starting, my happy weekend. And they were all shocked that I can just say it out loud without being afraid. And that's basically brought me to the situation where I'm at now.
Well, and so often people just, embrace fear, false evidence appearing real about all that could go wrong, as opposed to thinking about all that could go right.
Yeah. But the situation was a bit special because I perceived them as weird. And from their perspective, I was the weird person. And I was like, I'm normal. I'm not hiding. I'm not taking the rare exit, But that's how I got into it, because I thought, oh God, if I had the same attitude and need to work like decades with this fear, no, that's nothing that I was willing to do.
So when you look at individuals throughout history that have been leaders, who are some of the leadership icons that you look to for inspiration?
So I'm not a fan of this modeling thing or looking up to someone because I think it's too hyped. I'm
Okay.
not a fan of this personality cult, but that's just my personal take. I was never a fan of it. Even as a teenager, I never had pictures of any stars or something in my room. I like to take certain traits from people that I like and learn from it. So you can learn, instead of, hyping one person, I like to pick what's good from everyone and make it mine somehow or find my own style.
Okay.
Yeah.
So give me an example of a person and a trait that you've looked at and said, I'm going to make that my own.
Mm-hmm. You can also do it from the other perspective. How I do it at the beginning was look at the negative things and how I can turn it into a positive thing for myself. But what I like, definitely, or if you want some with a good example, I like books from Kim Scott.
Okay.
Because I think we match from our thinking a lot. She wrote the book Radical Candor. I love it because it's very similar about how I think. So she would be someone that I like. In general, I know that Steve Jobs is hyped, but from what I've read and observed is he was just a person that was good for ideas and conveying his innovation through media, but I don't think that he was a good leader because you hear two different versions.
Yeah,
very
Steve
creative.
Jobs was more of a visionary.
Yeah.
As opposed to someone who knew how to manage people, at least from everything that I've read.
Yeah. So, and as I didn't have so many good examples, I needed to find a different way. And I was like, okay, I picked the worst trait of that person and try to change it for me, how I don't do it and how I replace it with something good.
Okay. So when you look at leadership in general, what role does personal faith have in leadership for you?
Oh, can you give me more example or describe it a bit more?
Sure.
So
some people receive inspiration from God as part of their leadership makeup. Do you subscribe to that? And if so, how does that affect your leadership style?
Okay. So two things that I always do in my teams and which I've seen to be very useful is I exclude faith and political topics when we work together because I'd like to exclude everything where you cannot be on the same page and it's not our job to agree on personal ideas.
Sure.
Right? So I replace this with values.
Okay. But don't values come from faith?
I don't talk about it myself, to be honest. I don't position myself to this because I try to stay neutral no matter how. I work with multiple teams, right? And it's super important that I don't take any side besides my side based on values. So I never give any information about if I am a faithful person or not, if I am a religious person or not, how I would vote or how I wouldn't vote. If I am, super controversial topics, I like to exclude them. That's what I do. But if people want to hear what drives me, then it would be integrity. Integrity is the only word that I use where you can say, okay, that's me.
So how does integrity drive you?
I cannot do anything that I think is fraudulent or which I like to say that I would love to be able to look into the mirror and like the person that I see. That's basically how I measure things. So if you ask me to persuade someone into something which I know they don't like, I won't do this. Right? Yeah. So I think that's my core value, and everything that acts against that is something that I don't want to do.
So on your LinkedIn profile, you have that under your leadership, your organization, my transformational power. One of the things that you have listed is creating an emotional culture and psychological safe environment where employees can be authentic. Can you explain exactly what you mean by an emotional culture?
That's basically the teams that I've worked with. I was like, oh, these people are so nice when you go and have a drink with them in the evening. But they are terrible at work. Totally different. It's like they are two different people on daytime and in the evenings when you just meet them casually. And at some level, I felt like they act like robots. Being professional makes them act in a weird way. You cannot say, okay, I don't know, I had a bad night or something. They were not being human, just normal, how you would act. Okay. You had like two different personalities. And what I want people to be is when they enter the workplace, they should be the same person they were before they entered it.
Right. There should be a consistency amongst individuals, regardless of the area of life in which they are interacting.
Yeah.
So how do you coach people to gain a consistency as opposed to a silo life?
That's we match the values. To me, it's really important that we find 3 core values or things they like, which gives them orientation, who they want to be, who they are in private life, who they want to be and are in their professional setting, right? And if we don't invest that much time in acting differently at work, you have more energy to invest it for other things, right? And I think it's just more fun to be you. But I also like to say, if you are a serial killer, we don't want to see your real you. So then in this case, please make sure that you show us a different version, because one of the core values is probably that people want to still be alive after 8 hours work.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So you say that they should be consistent based upon their values. And I guess what I don't quite understand, and I know you can clarify for me, is what are they basing their values on if you think that faith should be divorced from how people act?
So you don't have to divorce from faith. You don't have to.
Okay.
But this is a personal topic. You can find an equivalent of value that you can use. And it's also not important that you share this with everyone. If faith is important to you, keep it, right? I'm just saying you cannot use the same measure on others, because there are people who have other
no,
values.
I'll agree with you there, but don't you think that for some people, faith is what influences them and influences their values, and conversely, those that don't have faith, at times there is no foundation that they are linking to, because when people say, well, I'm just going to do what's right. Okay, well, how does someone define what is right if they don't have a faith foundation?
You can have a faith foundation, or you can base the foundation on multiple core characteristics and values. It works. It works both ways. So,
foundation based upon what? I'm sorry, the internet flipped on me.
Yeah, based on values, principles.
Okay.
Values and principles. So if you want to go with faith, what's the core principle that you follow?
Are you asking me a question? Okay.
Yeah.
So I subscribe to I am a Christian. I was raised as a Jew. So I subscribe to the Judeo-Christian set of values that are out there, that are documented and outlined throughout the Bible.
Yeah, but you can find that basically, I don't know, being truthful could be one.
Being truthful is one of them, yes.
Yeah, being trustworthy is one.
Being trustworthy is one of them. Yes. And when you look at, for me at least, when you look at examples in the Bible about what is trustworthy and what is not, how do people have a foundation of what is trustworthy and what is not? I'm not saying that there aren't other foundations. Okay. What I'm asking you is, what are those foundations?
That's something that every person defines for themselves, because the foundation is only for you. You know, the foundation that you set for yourself is related to your behavior, how you want to act. You measure your own behavior against these foundations that you choose. Either it's faith, or with me it's integrity, you know, and supported, for example, restlessness when it comes to me. You know, when I talk about myself, it's like integrity, passion, and restlessness. Restlessness could be something negative. Many people see this as something negative. I see it as something positive, because I am someone who likes a lot of change. I'm easily bored in a more functional role where, you know, you have repetitive tasks. So how you define it, it's up to you. And then you measure your behavior and how you act against that. And then we will find core things that we do in a group.
Okay.
So, and we try not to hurt them when we work in a group, right? Because we are only responsible for our own behavior, and we can only influence our own behavior.
Yes, we can only act on our own behavior, and we can influence other people's behavior by our own behavior. Yeah. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Definitely.
So one thing that you talked about earlier, and if I'm portraying this incorrectly, please tell me I'm wrong. Okay, is that if we shouldn't have people talking about faith, because we should only focus on those items that are not controversial, that we can agree on. I subscribe to, or I think that part of the problem we have today in the world is that people have had difficulty having meaningful conversations about those things that they disagree about. And, I am a user of social media, as are you. And so many people will say things on social media that they would never say to someone's face, but they'll put it out there on social media. Don't you think that that's a problem, where people have lost the ability to have conversations about things that they disagree about?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I fully agree here. We need to bring it back to the setting we are at. I'm in a setting within organizations, and there is also a contract running. It's a business also. So we need to balance the idea of feeling good on being myself at work, but at the same time delivering onto the agreement that we agreed on, right? So we can disagree. I like to disagree and discuss on subject matters for the things that we are working on, the product, right? And when you are at the coffee break or whatever, and you want to discuss with a colleague, and the topic is a controversial topic or faith or whatever, then I teach my teams usually to come from the perspective of curiosity and understanding. It's not about that you judge on what you say or what you think. It's about the perspective. I want to understand where you're coming from and why it's important to you. And then someone else, if I'm like, I don't know, someone is Christian, someone is Jewish, you don't have to agree. You don't have to. But if you want to understand where the other person is coming from, you don't have to agree. It's not necessarily that you need to agree. In family, we also are friends. You don't always agree, right? So the idea should be, I want to learn and understand.
Well, and it's not even specifically about faith, although that is the example that I used as a foundation. When you look at politicians, I'm not sure how it is in Germany, and perhaps you can explain it to us, but I know in the United States, our politicians at one time would disagree about policy and then go out to dinner with each other and be friends. Now they disagree about policy and say incredibly hateful things about each other 24 hours a day on social media. Do you have that same experience in Germany with your politicians?
No, that's also important. Culture, culture plays a big role in how you see things. So in your place, you talk about controversial topics no matter where. In Germany, we like to separate them, right? So we generally don't talk about faith, about politics, about personal, super, intimate topics, not at work or something, right? Even in families, you might not discuss how you voted, right? And this is based on our history, right? Because we didn't have the chance to vote freely. So it's something that we like to protect and don't discuss. So probably it's part of our culture in this case. And but I also see this at work, that you like to agree on everything, and that's not the goal. And I also need to train our teams that they discuss forcefully on topics, but as soon as we leave the meeting room or the discussion, we are colleagues, we are friendly, right? So what I like to tell them is, be hard on the topic but soft on the person, right? And that's a maturity topic, and less, anything else.
So in an organization, when there is disagreement, how do you think disagreement, through whether it's a management team, a senior management team, an executive management team, or any specific team, departmental team, how should people work through disagreements to come to a conclusion?
You need to have communication skills in. When I come around, usually they are in a leadership crisis. That means they've missed all the other opportunities to discuss and agree or find solutions and moving on. So what I see usually is just the symptom that build up over weeks, years, months, years, And we like to track down what it was, not too much, not too long, but if you don't know the root cause, what you will repeat it, right? And at some level, you will realize that it's more the grudge that people hold on to against that person, and this was the thing that increased during time, and that's what we want to decrease. And the only way you can decrease it is if you go into building a relationship with these people, right? And what we do is, when we disagree, we like to distance ourselves from people.
Okay.
That's exactly the wrong way.
So when you look at how to encourage a team that has worked through a difficult situation and they have finally found resolution, what should they do to bring unity together at the end?
So what's important is that you need to accept and make space for every personality in the team. That's what you need to do. If you don't accept how one person is, then you will always try to change that person. And it's good to understand that everyone is good the way they are. They can work on the things that are not so nice, right? But it's not my job. What I tell people, it's not the job of your colleague to be like you want them to be. They didn't come to this place or on this world. They were not born to please you. And as soon as we understand this, then I think we can pull back. And the only reason why I would focus on changing someone else to be like I want them to be is because I have something in me that bothers me that I see on the other person. That's usually what triggers someone.
Interesting. Interesting. So I see here also you talk about trust being lost on many levels. How do you help a team regain trust?
By first, really basic rules, being reliable. First, we try to use quick fixes by using tactics. Like, if I tell you, I don't know, you want to deliver something at this date and you didn't do it and you didn't warn me and tell me that you face issues, I will not trust you. So really mini steps, things that you can execute. And this is how you can build it up again, right? Because it's based on the actions that someone is not trusting you anymore. There's a reason for it. And you need to earn it back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, shockingly, we have gone over 30 minutes already on our 30-minute show. It's that quick. So
Really?
Here's the part of the show where I turn it over to you for a couple minutes. And let me ask you, what words of wisdom do you have for our current viewers and those who will watch this on replay as to how to improve their leadership style, as you say, with the human touch and with a positive organizational culture?
Mm-hmm. It's on you as a leader to care about the employees, not the other way around. They will return the favor once you've delivered first. That's super important. That's one of the things that I tell all leaders. They always accept that the employees are more worried about the leader. Forget about it. And then really ask yourself why you chose to be a leader, right? You might have had good intentions, and then reflect on where you took the wrong path, where it was about getting the next promotion. And if it's still the thing that you want to, because you have major influence in the lives of others and how happy they can be 8 hours a day at your workplace. And
Fantastic.
see coaching, reflect on all what you do.
It really does. It really does. So Sessen, thank you so much for being my guest today on Litvak Leadership. You've got some really interesting perspectives and ways that you engage people, and I'm sure that it's worked very well for you and your clients, and will continue to do so. Everyone else, that's it for the week. We'll be back Monday with another show and another person, and we're going to hear what they have to say about